Hello, listeners, and welcome to the preview of the second test between England and India at Mumbai. I'm joined by Jimmy and by Rahul from the subreddit, and we're going to discuss what we think are things to look out for during the second test. Now, before I get into the questions, guys, let's try something different today. Instead of giving a direct preview, let's really quickly go through the previous test match and see if anybody deserves the spot in the playing 11 for the second test match. I'm going to start with you, Rahul. So who do you think were the big winners from India in the first test match that deserve to be there in the second lineup?
Well, first of all, definitely Pragyan Oja. In case you just checked the latest ICC rankings, he's up there as at the 5th spot in the ICC test bowling rankings, the highest ranked Indian bowler. And I said it in the beginning as well, he's the bowler to look out for. He's going to have an excellent test series, I can feel it. So he definitely deserves a spot in the playing 11 and he will play. I think I'll just say that apart from Gautam Gambhir, every Indian player deserves a spot.
Okay, over to you, Jimmy. Who do you think deserves this spot, justified this selection for the first test?
Oh, there's not many, really. Obviously, Alistair Cook played fantastic innings, limited his strokes to one he knew he could score from, and really stopped England from being embarrassed in the first test. So he's obviously got value to the England lineup. Matt Pryor played a brilliant knock, scored 91, second highest score by an English wicketkeeper in India. So he should definitely be in. I think Swan bowled brilliantly in the first innings, and was the only person who looked like he was ever going to get anybody out. I mean, I know Patel did, but that seemed more by accident than design. So Swan's definitely the most dangerous bowler there. And Nick Compton, who didn't score very many runs and took a long time getting there, but other than his inability to rotate the strike effectively enough, he looked very promising. He was calm. He was watchful. He's never faced conditions like this at all, and so I was quite pleased with the way he performed, and also I like the way that he defended with his elbows really high. So I'd like to see him given a bit of a run in the team to see what he can do.
I think you're spot on right with Nick Compton. I saw the second innings and I saw him battle really hard. And I think in his case, it was more of a trial by fire. And I think he's getting the hang of it. He can end up becoming a very good player of spin. He hung in there. He was doing all the right things. As you said, it was nice to see him defend with a high elbow. I also thought that, he was paying attention not only to the bowler's hand, but what was happening off the pitch. He was trying to go, his first trigger movement was forward. I saw him go back to a few deliveries too. He kind of needs to work on that, and, I'm sure he's going to do fairly well the more time he spends out there in the middle. Talking about his Indian counterpart, I was less than impressed with Gambhir. Would you like to say anything about? I know you just said that Gambhir doesn't really deserve his spot in the second 11, but I want Rahul, you to kind of explain why do you think so?
The English bowlers were not particularly impressive in the opening day. The lines they bowled were just not great for Indian conditions, and keeping that in mind, Gambhir looked very scratchy. It was again the same thing, being tentative outside his off stump, poking at deliveries that he had no business touching or even attempting to touch. He just looked ill at ease, There was something that was bothering him. It didn't look like his heart was in the game. you can see that he wants to succeed, but right now he just does not seem to have the technique to do so, or nor the temperament to actually battle it out. I remember you mentioning earlier that Sachin's innings of 241 against or 243 odds against Australia when he just forgot the cover drive, he didn't attempt because it was getting him out, and Gambhir just needs to try something similar. I think that he's taking his place in the team for granted. He needs a spell out of the team for a little while to make him realize that hey, this is the Indian team. It's not some second string club side, and you need to perform consistently to stay in there. We've not done this. India historically don't really throw out their well established players, but I think Gambhir needs this treatment. He just does not look like he belongs at this level right now.
And just to add to that a little bit, his grandmother also passed away, and as far as fans in India are concerned, it shouldn't have excused him from like missing the game. But apparently, he was very close to his grandmother, and I don't think he's gonna be in a good enough mental frame of mind to actually open the innings. I think he's a walking wicket, and maybe he does need to take the time off. But the problem is, do they bring in the reserve opener to open?
Yeah, see, that's another big problem because the reserve opener in the squad right now is Murali Vijay. And with all due respect to him, ever since the IPL started, he's basically just lost his test technique. He used to be a pretty decent domestic player with a decent, if not great, technique at the test level or at the domestic level nonetheless. But I don't know what happened. Ever since he started playing the IPL, he's tried to manufacture shots. He's tried to go for every delivery, and the early attempt or the heave that he attempts over mid wicket is just disgusting to watch. So keeping that in mind, I think that Gambhir would get the nod for the next test, but I would really like to see someone like Mukund or even just Uchan just to give him a try at the test level. Why not? He's looked good in under 19 World Cup, and it would be a nice idea to actually blood in a youngster who is a proper opener.
Good points altogether. Jimmy, I know you were quite vociferous against Stuart Broad, and I think people over at Cricinfo heard what you said because I saw a very interesting article, which is very similar to the things you were talking about a couple of days ago.
Yeah. First of all, I'll state that I think he's undroppable. Absolutely, the England management isn't going to drop him. Whatever. Uh, at least he'll have another year of poor performances, but he's certainly not looking as if he's living up to his potential now. That article cited a few figures, which I'm not going to go into, but you can just see his pace has dropped. His He doesn't look as up for the fight as he has previously, and even though he's been taking wickets, he's been bowling poorly and giving away a lot of runs. Um, I just think he's not contributing with the bats. He's not contributing with the ball overly much at the moment, and I'm thinking that if Tremlett didn't have his injury problems, then he'd be a better bet to play on the Mumbai pitch, which is going to have a bit of bounce. I think Steve Finn is a massive blow in that sense. Losing Steve Finn is a massive blow because although they wouldn't have dropped Broad, it certainly would have given them an alternative to medium pace outside the off stump, which is what Broad is bowling at the moment, not particularly effectively. So I just think that he should be looking over his shoulder, but he's vice captain and it's not going to happen. So
I think
unfortunately, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to add something, but go ahead.
Unfortunately, we're stuck with him for now. Is all I was going to say.
Yeah. Well, it kind of almost seems to me that he's undroppable because he is the vice captain, and he's not the vice captain because he's earned it for this tour. So I kind of see where you're coming from, and being from India, where selectors are very wary of dropping people, as everybody knows in the cricket playing nations. I can see where you guys are coming from, and I can see how historically he's done well, and they just want to give him another chance, and it's kind of undroppable. But there's going to be a big shakeup in the English batting lineup. Ian Bell's heading back, and Twinkle Toes was probably one of the better players of spin in my eyes, although he did not do so well in the first test. How do you think that's going to affect the balance of the side?
I think it will help the balance side personally. I have personally been advocating the inclusion of Morgan. I don't think that's going to happen because I think Johnny Bairstow is the next cab off the rank after getting 95 against South Africa. Um, I think Morgan purely because he has got rid of that weird trigger movement. I'm sure you saw it where he kind of squatted before the ball was delivered, when
Mm-hmm.
his head was moving at the point of delivery, and he was struggling against seam and he was struggling against spin. But now he's got that resolved to an extent, and I think he's got more experience with subcontinental conditions, and he's hopefully he's done some work to address his lack of being able to score on the offside when you've got a test field rather than a limited overs field.
Yeah, I think.
So, sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
So, I think Bell's been very poor against spin. He had a nightmare of a series in Pakistan where he averaged 11, I think, and in the UAE, sorry. And Bairstow scored a century in one of the warm-up matches, which hasn't hurt his cause at all. I think they'll probably go with Bairstow, even though I think Morgan might be the better choice.
I'm gonna have to agree with you there. I know you just said that Bill averaged about 11 in the three test matches he played. Ian Morgan wasn't any better. He scored 90 runs in 6 innings that he faced. He was completely outfoxed by Saeed Ajmal, and I don't think Ian Morgan has really gotten past those mental scars. So maybe a fresh mind in the game in the form of Johnny Bairstow might be better, as you say. I do like him. He reminds me of Paul Collingwood just in the way he looks, and Paul Collingwood was probably my favorite English player in the last 10 years. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for saying this, but yeah, I rate Collie higher than KP.
No comment,
He's the
Taylor.
exact opposite.
No way.
I'm sorry.
He's the exact opposite. Collie was the consummate team man,
Exactly.
whereas
I
KP
thought
most certainly is not.
I'm a big fan of characters that really struggle, really hold the team. They battle it out. That's why I love Steve Waugh. That's why I loved Rahul Dravid. And that's pretty much the same reason why I like Paul Collingwood, because he really dug deep. And it's the same reason why I'm starting to really appreciate Matt Pryor, because I thought Matt Pryor played exceptionally well in the second innings. He was attacking. That's the right way. Any Indian batsman is going to tell you, you can't just sit and defend against the spinning ball in India. It's going to keep low. You're going to get variable bounce. You're going to be stuck on the same score. You actually have to be aggressive. Try and get off strike. Try and drive through the covers or drive square through the wicket, and kind of do that. And we didn't really see the English team do that too much, other than Cook and Pryor. Um, there's a lot of premeditation that went on. That was kind of bad to see, especially given the fact that Graham Gooch is probably one of the best batting coaches out there in the world. I mean, I'm sure the Indians would love to have him as a batting coach, but you know, you do the best you can, and I think yeah, you're right that Johnny Bairstow is going to be a better choice than Ian Morgan. Now, next question about Indian team selection. I'm going to go towards you, Rahul. There's news today that Umesh Yadav might be out
Yeah.
of the second test. He's probably picked up a niggle. Now we already know that Varun Aaron, who was also fast bowler, who's very prone to stress fractures because of his kind of unique action. He's in Perth right now. He's getting biomechanical help. He's probably going to be fiddling with his action, so he's probably not going to be making it back in the next 6 to 8 months. He's not going to be back in the team. So they're looking at Ashok Dinda.
Yeah, and that just gets my goat completely. The guy has a domestic average of 29 points something in the Ranji Trophy. That is not good enough for you to be a test bowler. I fail to understand why the Indian selectors keep picking up bowlers like Dinda, Vinay Kumar, or this Jaydev Unadkat guy who debuted in South Africa. It's I, to call it pathetic would be an understatement. There are guys out there who are actually good. There was an article today on Pankaj Singh. I've been following this guy for 3-4 years now. He's been the backbone of Rajasthan bowling attack, and Rajasthan plays their matches not in conducive conditions. And this guy has a domestic average of almost 26.
Yeah, that's impressive. And correct me if I'm wrong. Pankaj Singh also plays for Punjab 11 in the IPL, right?
No, I think Pankaj Singh plays for Rajasthan Royals.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thanks for correcting me. Yeah, no, there was also this guy from Jammu and Kashmir who's supposed to be one of the fastest bowlers around.
Yeah, I forgot his name, but I don't think he's played any domestic cricket of note. Because Jammu Kashmir plays in the Plate League, if I remember correctly, and the league's been restructured this year. But previously they were in the Plate League, and so he was not really bowling to any quality opposition, unlike Rajasthan, who are Ranji champions who were Ranji champions for the second year running last year round. And so Pankaj Singh's been actually bowling to high quality opposition players and getting the wickets. And it's actually disgusting because Ashok Dinda is older, has a worse average, has a ridiculous bowling action, and has never performed in the limited opportunities that he's got. I agree the opportunities have been limited, but he's never looked a bowler who is likely to pick up wickets because of good bowling. And I fail to understand why people are shouting for him to be in the side. It looks like we are back into the days of 90s when people were selected just because someone from the Eastern Bloc had to be in the team. It looks exactly like that because there are already too many players from the northern zone. Someone from Bengal has to be in there. There cannot be any other reason for Ashok Dinda to be in the side, or the selectors are seeing something that I can't see.
Interesting. Now, I am a firm believer that Dinda should not be playing. I think he's so slow for what he's supposed to be doing. He is military medium. He's not going to get any assistance from the pitch. He's not going to get any assistance in the air. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the match is taking place at the Wankhede or the Brabourne?
The Wankhede.
Yeah, so Wankhede is a dry, slow surface, and I don't expect him to do much in that particular match. I was actually floating the idea that, forget getting a second seamer. Just play with Zahir, pick two frontline spinners, and pick a batting all-rounder in Suresh Raina. Give him an extra chance. Because we've known, he's kind of been working. If he gets a match and it might be good, it will also create healthy competition for Yuvraj. Yuvraj, kudos to him for doing exceptionally well in the first innings and his first test innings back from his germ cell cancer. But at the same time, he should not be thinking that this is his spot. It's got his name written all over it. I think there should be some healthy competition, and I think Raina should be in there. Plus, Raina can also bowl spin. Along with Yuvraj and Virender Sehwag, if you have Raina, you have three batting all-rounders that can all spin the ball. You know the pitch is going to take turn. Why don't the Indian selectors think about that really hard and really seriously? It really elongates the batting lineup. There's, you have Zahir Khan probably coming in at number 10. You have Ashwin coming in at number 9. That's a great batting lineup. And, it's India. You're not going to be, dependent on pacers taking too much. Or why shouldn't India seriously consider Suresh Raina?
In that case, if India does go down that path, I would prefer Manoj Tiwari over Suresh Raina because Suresh Raina is pretty much an off spinner, not quite unlike Virender Sehwag, while Manoj Tiwari gives you an option of a leg spinner And we all know that England love leg spinners, so why not have a poor imitation of a leg spinner to just scare the English a little? But no, I personally don't think it's a good idea to actually play with an extra batsman who can double up as a spinner. We all saw with Patel how that experiment can work out, and England are not that bad players of spin that they would be actually giving up any wickets to bowlers like Manu Tiwari or Suresh Raina. I would, if you do want an all rounder, I would actually prefer Irfan Pathan in the team because he can swing the ball and he has been swinging the ball in domestic cricket recently as well. And I would like to see what he can do on the international stage. But I assume that if Umesh Yadav does not make it to the second test match, Ishant Sharma would play in his place. And this might very well be the last chance saloon for Ishant Sharma. He's played 40 odd tests. And it's sad to see that despite all his talent and his dedication, which I think is unquestionable, he's definitely one of the most dedicated, if not the most dedicated member of the Indian squad right now. And if he does not come good in this test match, if he gets an opportunity, he might find himself out of the side.
Interesting. Now, Jimmy, I'm gonna kind of talk about the English bowling lineup a little bit. You think Bresnan should be going home, and Finn's probably not going to be ready for this match too. So, what does the English bowling attack look like?
It isn't the attack that I would choose myself, but I think it will be Broad, Swan, Anderson, Panesar. You know my feelings on Broad. I think Swan surprised me actually, considering he struggled in the UAE so much. Didn't really take many wickets and got taken for runs. I was surprised that he performed so well on a pitch that was taking turn. He managed to deceive people in flights. He managed to deceive Sachin in flights, and got some to turn sharply off the pitch to bowl Coley, for example. And so yeah, Swan's going to be so important to England. Anderson was a bit unlucky. He bowled well-ish compared to the other seamers, certainly. So I don't think he's the attack leader. England rely on him so much to produce reverse swing and turn it both ways away from the batsman. So you can really count on Anderson, even though he didn't perform brilliantly in the first test. Big worrying point for me is Panesar's fielding. He put down a couple in the UAE terribly. He didn't know whether he wanted to catch in the Australian way or the English way with the fingers up or the fingers down, and made a hash of it. And I think unless you can hide him somewhere, he's going to cost you runs and possibly cost you wickets. The benefits you might get from him, he's a left arm frontline seamer, so he'll be doing more of a holding role, I think, keeping it tight, conceding a few runs. He has excellent economy throughout his career, so hopefully we'll just be doing a containing role while Swan is taking wickets at the other end. I don't expect the seamers to be too effective because none of them are getting any bounce, and Broad's pace has dropped so much. Anderson can't bowl at his full speed all the time in India either because of the heat. So I really expect Swan to be key, with Panesar, performing very much a holding role and keeping the run rate down while Swan attacks them.
All right. Before I ask you guys about your probable starting 11s for the next game, I want to address a contentious issue that came up after the first test match. Mahendra Singh Dhoni really slammed the groundsman for not assisting his team. I can see where he's coming from. The only reason I think there was a result for this particular game was because on the first day, Virender Sehwag scored at a really fast clip and got a century and really put Indian, commanding position. If he had failed, it would have been hard yards for India, and I doubt they would have been able to get a first innings lead against England. Now, Steve Waugh disagrees with Dhoni and says it's cheap of him to essentially ask for groundsmen to help. But my feeling is that, it's kind of a fair indictment of the groundsmen in India because all that pitch did was produce runs. The bounce was low, it was turning, but it was slow turn. So if Dhoni, as the captain of India, says, make a pitch that bounces, I don't see anything wrong with that. Because it's going to help not only the spinners, but it's also going to help the pacers. And it's going to lead to a more uh, even contest between bat and ball. I want to get your reaction to that, Jimmy. If you agree that India should, the Indian groundskeeper should actually produce a spinning and biting wicket. And then I want to flip the coin over to Rahul and see what he has to say.
I think it's perfectly fair, to be honest. You expect to have pitches taking spin early on in India. I think you're completely correct about it. This pitch being the Ahmedabad pitch being really lifeless, not offering much help to anybody. India was saved. Well, India won the game on the back of a terrible performance by England's batsmen, as well as some good bowling by Ozia and Ashwin. Certainly, I won't take that away from them. But every team uses their home conditions. It's no exception. India are no exception, and just because it's a different type of pitch and it's not a pitch that takes seam and they don't have cloud conditions that produce swing, I think you have to use the conditions that are there. And if they can't produce a certain type of wicket, they should produce the type of wicket that will give a game, really. And that's what more bounce on the Wankhede pitch will allow them to do.
Cool. Rahul?
I completely agree with Jimmy there. I completely agree with Dhoni's viewpoints as well. The Ahmedabad pitch was a very typical Indian pitch where if the opposing team tried harder, as they did in second innings, they could have ground out a substantial first innings score and the match would have ended in a drab draw. And you correctly pointed out, if it had not been for Sehwag's maniacal scoring run rate, we would not have seen a result in this test match. And it's perfectly fair to ask for a pitch which assists the bowlers. We don't want to see drab draws. I'd rather have a test match finish in 3 days than teams piling up 600 over 5 days. Completely agree there with Dhoni.
All right, last question, guys. And I'm going to start with you, Rahul. Probable starting 11 for India. Go.
The same with Ishant coming in for Ramesh.
Okay. Jimmy?
Hey, so the only changes really will be Bairstow at 5 for Bell, and Panasar coming in for Bresnan. I think Flower has admitted that he made a mistake with the selection before, so we'll play 2 spinners.
All right. That's it for this edition of Sniffing Leather. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for our contributors, Rahul and Jimmy. We'll see you all later.